There were certain scripture scholars at the time that believed that Galileo was challenging the church's interpretation of certain scripture passages. They pulled out scripture passages such as Joshua chapter 10, verse 13. And the sun stood still and the moon stayed. The sun stood still implies that the sun was moving at some point in time, and it's pretty much there for dramatic effect. But these scripture scholars did not see that. Galileo, first of all, he pointed out to the scripture scholars. Now, technically, he didn't have the authority. He was a scientist, not a theologian. He didn't technically have the authority to challenge these scripture scholars in the first place. However, he does have a good point. Here's his point. He uses a quote from St. Augustine. One does not read in the gospel that the Lord said, "I will send you the Paraclete who will teach you about the course of the sun and moon, for he will make them Christians, not mathematicians." Galileo told these scripture scholars that they were interpreting scripture too literally. Of course, they got angry with him. Galileo took his arguments to the Pope. He turned it over to the Holy Office, who did not torture Galileo. They didn't really do that much. They just said, okay, they issued a condemnation of his theory. Galileo forced a showdown. He published 2 books. The first one was called Dialogue Concerning the Two Chief World Systems, and it was widely understood to mock the Pope. Now, keep in mind that this is the Pope. Not only is the Pope the head, the vicar of Christ, the head of the Catholic Church on earth, the visible one anyways, he was also Galileo's financial supporter. There's an old saying, it says, "Don't bite the hand that feeds you." It kind of sounds to me that that's what Galileo was doing. Just saying. His second book, The Essayer, promoted the idea of atomism, which was first thought up by 2 Greeks and a Roman way back in Aristotle's time. Their names were Democritus, Epicurus, and Lucretius. Atomism proposed that everything in the universe was composed of infinitely small bits of matter, called atoms, and the void which separated them. Now we know that atoms are what makes up all matter in the universe. We know that now. However, back in Democritus and Epicurus and Lucretius' day, they took it a little bit farther. They took it so that not only was everything made up of atoms, but they also took it so that, there was no room for spirituality of any kind. Nothing spiritual. No gods, no souls, nothing immortal, no angels, nothing. This was going a bit far even for them, because back in their day, pretty much everybody believed in, if they didn't believe in God, they at least believed in some pagan god of some kind. The whole idea of atomism, the whole thing, the atoms, the void separating the atoms, the no spirituality, nothing spiritual, that was fully embraced by Galileo in the Essayer. Atomism was seen as a gateway to heresy. The church's response to the Essayer was the trial that many people exaggerate a lot. Galileo did eventually recant his belief in the heliocentric system, but it was not under torture. He wasn't even imprisoned in harsh conditions. Niccolini, a friend of Galileo's, ambassador of the Tuscan court, he would write reports to the court, back to the court. And since Niccolini is Galileo's friend, you would think that if Galileo was being imprisoned or tortured, Niccolini would have written about it to the court, and we would be able to see that in his letters. But there is no evidence of that in his letters. In fact, this is what Niccolini says. He says that Galileo was given every comfort and accommodation by the Pope. Yeah, by the Pope. To make his arrest, because he was arrested. He was under house arrest. You're not going to just let this guy go free. Anybody who's arrested and put on trial is going to be kept under some sort of confinement. He writes that Galileo was given every comfort and accommodation that the Pope could give him, even his own personal servants. Galileo couldn't have been tortured anyways because of the rules in the Directory for Inquisitors, which the Holy Office stuck to like glue. Followed it to the letter. Despite all of that, the Church has acknowledged that Galileo's condemnation was wrong, and the Vatican has even issued 2 stamps of Galileo in order to make up for it. Large amounts of the trial, which was recorded in Latin, are still untranslated. Large amounts of it. So we know the gist of what happened during the trial. We know like most of it. We know we have an idea of it, of what happened. But there's still large amounts. We don't know all the details. There you go. Those are the bare bones facts of the Galileo controversy. I hope that this video, long as it is, has helped you scratch the surface of the Galileo controversy. And I hope that if you're still here, I know I've already said this 2 times, but please do your own research on the subject. It's a very extensive subject. It's very interesting to get into. If you have any questions, if you come across anything in your research that you think you could add or that possibly contradicts what I said here, leave a comment in the box below. Yeah, thanks for watching if you're still here. God bless.